a monster.
I'm your number one fan.
Now clear your minds. Notice what scares you. It has from the very beginning.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
It's been informed that zombies have entered the building. They're at the door. They're coming in.
Give it a roof of my fist because I'm gonna ram it into your stomach and break your goddamn spine.
Oh god, dude, I'm crying. I can just imagine him on the fucking ceiling just crawling around. Killing me.
Who told you you could abort our baby? Put that baby down.
Oh shit! Now I can't picture the movie without Arnie being in it now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Frosty, and alongside me, as always, is Corey Peak.
What's going on, brother?
And our boy Tony Arroyo is in the house.
What up? What up?
What's up, guys? Welcome back. Missed you guys last episode.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah. Here.
I'm present.
And accounted for.
And I am ready to talk about The Fly. I'm really excited about this one. This was one I hadn't seen in a very long time. And was able to jump back in it. And this movie was freaking awesome. So pretty stoked about that. So just real quick before we get things started, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. As a reminder, you can catch us on any podcast outlet such as Podcast Addict, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio. Be sure to leave us a review, share, subscribe, tell your friends about us. We'd greatly appreciate that. We have a TikTok, Midnight Monster. What's our TikTok? Midnight Monster 20. Midnight Monster 20.
Yes.
We also have a Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at Monster_Corner. Took me a second. But follow us on there as well. So, what's up, guys?
Not much. Oh, hey, before we kick things off, Tony and I were actually looking the other day, and we Googled the podcast just to see what would pop up. And believe it or not, there's actually a rating. So somebody has rated us. We got 5 stars. That's awesome. So thank you to whoever rated us. We don't know who you are, but we appreciate it.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, thank you so much for that. But yeah, tell your friends about us. Tell them to leave a review. It would help the podcast out a lot. Get our name out there. So I got big plans for 2021. This year might be as crazy of a year as last year, but we'll see how that goes. But you know what? The world's going to shit, but we're still going to watch movies and review them. So
damn right.
Screw everything else. I'm going to watch horror movies, hang out with my family and friends, and play Magic the Gathering. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just, I guess I'll work. I guess I should do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that might be an essential part of it.
Yeah.
Essential being key.
So yeah, kicking this thing off, we are reviewing, like I said from the beginning, The Fly. This is the 1986 version. Of course, the Cronenberg version, arguably the best version, considering it is the great David Cronenberg, who we are covering this month. Just a quick spoiler for the movie: Jeff Goldblum turns into a fly. It's fucking awesome.
Spoiler alert.
just a tiny spoiler. 1986. It was released August 15th is what I'm seeing here in the US. Had a budget of estimated $15 million. Looks like opening weekend it grossed $7 million. On my birthday, huh?
Not billion. That's a
Not
typo.
billion. Yeah, there's an extra comma there. But on my birthday, opening weekend, August 17th, it actually grossed 7 million. So that's pretty cool. Cumulative worldwide gross 60 million. So yeah. And it shows every bit of that shows too, man. 'Cause, this movie's just it's got very haunting storytelling, and it's just great body horror, great practical effects. It's got it all.
It's a
So
tragic character study, man. Really.
it really is. It really is. Because like there's so many times when like your love and hate relationship for Jeff Goldblum throughout the movie kind of goes up and down, right? Because he starts off as just a straight shooter scientist, you know, a little overly ambitious, studying uh, transportation, which I would find very useful. Just saying.
Yeah.
Uh, but then it escalates, just like most ambitious projects do in horror movies, right?
Yeah, he comes off. He's a little eccentric. He's a little out there, and
Yeah.
you kind of like that about his character. He kind of you can kind of like just relate with him. I mean, because he just comes off like he's super likable though in the beginning. Like he's like a go getter. He's very driven, like very focused. And I noticed something too when in the beginning. I haven't noticed it before, but when he picks up or no, when she picks him up and takes him back to his lab or his apartment, slash apartment. She's actually driving, and he makes a comment about he suffers from like motion sickness from cars and stuff like that. And I think about it, it's cool because there was a little moment where when they pulled up to where he lives, he kind of like just almost jumps out of the car before it even stops. Like he's so ready to get out of the car because he can't stand being in a car or any mode of transportation, which kind of like gives him motivation to do what he's doing because
Yes.
he suffers from like motion sickness and just a fear of being in vehicles and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty neat. I love that they added that subtly in the movie.
It reminds me a lot of myself at the DMV.
Right.
Ready to jump the hell out of there.
Absolutely. You spend any time in the DMV, you're ready to get the fuck out of there.
So yeah, Jeff Goldblum is our main character, of course. He plays Seth Brundle. Supporting actress Gina Davis, if y'all might remember her from the 80s. She had a big role in movies like Beetlejuice. Great actress. I think she was very underrated considering the role she had. She played a lot of good movies.
She shines in this movie too. Like her acting is impactful.
And again with some of the late 80s films, she plays a big female character. It's a big female character role. It's definitely well projected around her character.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, so she's not just the dumb bimbo that's along for the ride, like she's has a very solid foundation with her character, very in depth. It escalates pretty quickly, but I think they just kind of do that just to save time. But they meet in the beginning. I don't know where. I guess they're at a convention or somewhere, party or something. She's a reporter and looking for the next scoop. I don't know if she was. I can't remember if she was actually sent in there to find him specifically, but they talk and he's very persistent and wants to It's funny because he's like, hey, I know you want to talk to me. He's being like nerdy or whatever. And she's like, okay, well, he's cute, whatever. I'll go along with it. The next thing you know, they're back at the lab and he's like, hey, check out my transportation device. I built this with my own hands.
Right.
So he's like showing off, like, hey, I'm not only good looking, I'm really smart. So. But
yeah, she kind of falls for his charms a little bit. Like she gets along for the ride. He's very, like I said, impressionable, and still a little eccentric and a little bit little bit out there, but still has a side that she can kind of, I guess, kind of feel comfortable around to
Sure.
just go and just to take off with him, especially the fact that she's taking him back and he's not driving her back and this and that. So it's like a reversal, so it's pretty interesting. Because of, like I said, his prior, problems with being in cars and stuff like that. So
Right.
yeah, it's pretty cool. Like she's like along for the ride. And boy, is she like surprised when he actually puts on a display, and lo and behold, like these telepods that he's working on, they work and they're actually able to transport. So
yeah, they turned him into an Olympic gymnast at first. So he first actually goes through the transportation himself. Well, first, rewind a little bit. First, he uses the monkey, the baboon, if you
the
will.
baboon.
Baboon.
I,
Yeah.
I love where he talks about where he talks to the other baboon and he's like, sorry, what happened to your brother?
Yeah.
Uh,
That first attempt did not go over well.
No,
It's
no,
no,
actually,
didn't.
but leading up to that, when he's kind of, because so he finds out he can transport inanimate objects, but he can't transport like a human being or an animal. That just like it just won't work. So he's
Well,
No, go
it's
ahead,
almost
Corey.
like it's almost like synthetic because
Mhm.
at one point he tries the steak, and he's like taste it. What does it taste like? And she's like, it tastes synthetic,
Mhm.
versus just one that was just fried, So he tries to work out the bugs, I guess you will.
Badooch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting fact about
Yep.
this movie before we move on. Mel Brooks actually produced this movie. Something we were talking about before the show. He produced the movie, but he kind of did it hush hush because he didn't want people finding out that he produced it. Otherwise, they wouldn't take it seriously.
Mhm.
So that was pretty cool, pretty interesting. And the famous tagline in the movie, "Be afraid, be very afraid," was actually an idea that Cronenberg had gotten from Mel Brooks, because that's what Mel Brooks was telling the actors to act like whenever they were seeing the transformation of Seth.
Hmm.
So just a fun little fact.
Yeah, it's really cool tidbit because honestly, I never knew that, and and I mean, in my opinion, Mel Brooks is right because had I known, I mean, you would think that a name like that affiliated with a film like this, you
Yeah,
would think that it had comedy, comedy parts versus, not so much comedy and more horror and sci-fi.
More
So
right.
serious stuff.
yeah, it's definitely out of his window, and it's cool. Just goes to show that somebody can be very diverse like that, you know.
Mm.
Right.
So yeah.
Which is funny because now these comedy guys. I mean, not to get off on another note here, but these comedy guys now are doing horror. So like guys like
Mm.
Jordan Peele and
Mm.
uh, guys like that they're diving into horror and trying it out and doing a really good job. I mean, so like I said, it's cool to see people get out of their comfort zone. I know Mel Brooks just produced it; he didn't necessarily direct it or have any anything like any involvement like that, but still,
Yeah.
it's really cool. He kind of like set the trend because I don't know too many instances before that of somebody that's a legend in comedy kind of dipping their toes into the horror genre and
Right. Yeah. No,
going down
totally.
going down that rabbit hole. So yeah, it's
But,
pretty interesting. Really, really, really neat little tidbit.
I mean, there's a ton of like Hollywood history just behind this movie. Like a lot of little things just added up. It made it really interesting. Like Martin, of course, Scorsese asked to meet David Cronenberg. Upon meeting him, he said he looked like a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon. So that's what inspired Cronenberg to actually give himself a cameo as the gynecologist in the movie, which I thought that was him even before looking at the IMDb as I was watching it. I was like, that looks like Cronenberg.
Yeah,
I bet it is. And sure enough, it was.
Even
Um,
even with the mask on, you could just tell by his voice because he has a very distinctive voice. You can tell it was him.
yeah. Um, Michael Keaton was actually offered the role of Seth Brundle, but he declined. It was originally a project for Tim Burton to direct, which we were talking about that. Kind of glad that didn't
Yeah.
happen. Nothing against Tim Burton, like he makes
No.
pretty cool movies, but this is just like you said, back in his prime.
Hmm.
But I don't think it would have turned out quite like what how we cherish the movie now. I don't think it would have been the same.
Well,
Obviously.
you got to think of that with an open mind too. Like Edward Scissorhands was actually a really great movie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I could see that in a sense, but in my
Oh, wow.
opinion, Cronenberg delivered quite well, and I'm pleased with it.
I mean, honestly, if you're like thinking about, if we're remaking The Fly, I don't see how you can remake the Fly more perfectly than this. There's just no way, shape, or form that you could ever do a remake of The Fly better than this. I was thinking that after I watched it, I'm like, if anybody else tried to tackle the subject matter, I don't think they could do it as good. There's just no way. This is perfectly done. This is
Hmm.
why when people talk about remakes and stuff like that, and the common misconception with remakes is, oh man, remakes are terrible. Like, well, people get like they cringe every time they hear somebody's doing a remake or this movie's being remade. But I mean, you got to look at like the big three, like The Thing, The Fly, The Blob, even Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Remakes are there's some really fantastic remakes out there.
Mhm.
So I mean, there really is. So, I thought about it. I'm like, I just don't see how you can remake The Fly better than this. It's just no way.
I
And
personally enjoyed the remake of Dawn of the Dead. Like that's, um, I love the original, but
Mhm.
I did enjoy the remake. I know that's kind of a controversial.
Well, here's my thing, Daniel. When you remake a film, okay, I get it. You want to try and dip your toes into a classic film. You want to try and almost make a readaptation of something that was once really loved.
Yeah.
And in the case with like Dawn of the Dead and even like the It films and stuff like that, okay, you have a classic that's an amazing film, but then you create a movie that's similar, but it's not a shot for shot remake, and
Mhm.
that's what I like about remakes. Okay, so if it's a shot for shot remake, kind of like in my opinion, the Omen remake. I hated the remake because it was almost a damn shot for shot for the film,
Yeah.
and
There's almost no point
that's
doing that.
yeah. There's no point, and it's just honestly like you're just trying to make a buck at this point,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not okay with that.
no, it definitely doesn't give your movie any substance at all. I mean, the more famous one of that, example is like the Psycho remake, which was literally a shot for shot remake, and
Yeah.
it did terribly. Um, it was very underwhelming and not well received, and yeah, it was a disaster. And I think there was a the director was trying to do something different with that. But I mean, not to go off on another tangent, but there's some times where it just doesn't work. And if you take the basic structure of a film, you're remaking it and you add your own twist to it, then that's, in my opinion, that's how you do it successfully.
Yeah.
Like the great example is, is the Maniac remake, because they took the basic structure of the original Maniac, but they added their own like twist to it when they shot it pretty much in POV the whole time, which I thought that was really, really smart. And it was a
Mhm.
different thing. And that to me is one of the more modern remakes that's really, really, really good. Like solid as hell. Great movie. So like I said, it's possible you can do it, and I don't see the big I mean the big three to me are always going to be The Fly, The Thing, and The Blob. And to me, this one is just, it's, I mean, Vincent Price aside, this one to me is a better movie. I enjoy this Fly a lot more than the original.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. It's Cronenberg, man. It's
Oh
got
yeah,
that Cronenberg twist to it. You know what I mean?
that
The
helps.
body horror in this movie was just
That helps
second to none.
because
Oh
Cronenberg
yeah.
is one of my favorite horror directors of all time. So yeah, that definitely sells it for me.
Yeah. So I was just sitting there reading. Apparently, John Lithgow auditioned for the lead role. James
Wow.
Woods turned down the role of
Mm,
Seth Brundle.
which is interesting because he was just in Videodrome. So
Richard Dreyfuss turned down the role.
But
Wow.
we were talking about this earlier, and I'm I honestly I couldn't see anybody else playing Seth Brundle
No.
other than
I
Jeff
don't.
Goldblum. I
I
mean,
can't.
he brings such an eccentric role. Any role that he really plays, he brings an eccentric role to it or character to it.
Well,
Um,
Mhm.
but
the thing
but
about that is when you see Jeff Goldblum, his personality just outside of acting and stuff like that is very eccentric. Like so, he just fits perfectly for this role. He brings his own personality to it because he is very much a eccentric dude. If you like watch interviews with him and stuff like that, he's got his own little wavelength he's on. So to me,
Mhm.
it's perfect casting. It was like hitting lightning in a bottle. Like it's just perfect. Because like I said, I don't see anybody else like even the phenomenal actors that were mentioned that turned it down or just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like I just don't know if they could have added more. I really don't because it's his personality so much.
well, I mean that's Jeff Goldblum because Seth Brundle's character is a very driven and passionate character, and
Mhm.
almost like it's his life's work. You
Right.
know, he's afraid to let anyone in, and I feel that Jeff Goldblum really just delivers on that altogether. I
Correct.
mean,
Well,
even down to the last moments of the film, you get just a straight up passion from the guy.
yeah, because you almost have that mad doctor mentality, that driven beyond the point of logic and reasoning, and he's just so focused on his life's work and accomplishing what he's driven to do that he just everything else is just kind of secondary to him. Like even I thought it was really smart when Gina Davis's character is with him and she's like, do you ever wash your clothes? You're wearing the same set of clothes. And he's like, oh, yeah, yeah, I wash my clothes. Like these are clean. And she's like, well, it's the same outfit you've been wearing. And
Yeah.
he's like,
I,
oh, he points to his closet and he has the same outfit like lined up in his closet.
Yeah,
And
he
she's like,
he literally for every day of
yeah,
the
she's
week.
like, why do you do that? He's like, well, I don't have to do extra thinking about what I want to wear. I just put on, you know, the clothes I have set out that are the same.
he's
He's
like
like,
Mario.
he's like, he's like, yeah, it worked for Einstein. And I was like, that's fucking brilliant, man.
Yeah, that was a great out of touch. I mean,
Oh
even
yeah,
even all the way down to the shoes. He had
yeah.
a pair of shoes for every single day.
I feel like this movie wasn't. I feel like this movie's a lot deeper than we think. Like, it's just a big long PSA about hygiene.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is, and Cronenberg did state that, hey, this is like a metaphor, like what happens in this movie, the structure of this movie is basically a metaphor for getting older and having a sickness or having some sort of health issue like cancer or something
Mhm.
like that. And then a lot of the audience, when this came out, a lot of the audience took this movie as a metaphor for AIDS, which
Mm.
was really interesting because I know the AIDS it was pretty big at this time. So, people like gravitated to it and they saw that as like a metaphor in this movie. So, it just goes to show in the times, what was going on. And there was a lot of people dying from AIDS. It was a new scary thing. And um, with everything that happens in the movie, I could kind of see, yeah, I could see that. It makes sense to me that people would presume it to be a metaphor for AIDS. But I think Cronenberg at the same time is like, hey, I could see that. He's like, but what I was trying to do was not like, kind of, make it seem like this is an AIDS movie. That no, this was like a basic, you know, getting older, your body falling apart, you have like some sort of cancer or some sort of disease or something that's slowly breaking down your body and your will and your mind. And he's like, that's what my intention was, but he's like, I'm not gonna pass it off like I'm offended by people thinking that it has something to do with AIDS, but he's like, but that wasn't my intention. So that's pretty cool. But that's the beauty of movies, man. People can interpret a movie how they want to interpret it because it's personable for them. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just picture Cronenberg going to Jeff Goldblum. I'm like, hey, I got a movie for you to act in. Oh yeah, what is it? You're gonna be a fly. I'm turning your ass into a fly. So Cronenberg come to me. He said, I want you to be a fly. And so I was.
that's a pretty good Goldblum. That's a pretty good Goldblum.
I think that's the Bud Light talking.
Yeah. I couldn't
See,
have done anything.
he said you're a fly, but it's well, you have AIDS. You're an AIDS fly.
Oh God.
Um, yeah. The funny thing about this movie is like, if they make this movie nowadays, it would have an ending where he gets turned back somehow. And I was thinking about that towards the end of the movie because I can't remember like exactly how it ended, and I was like, "There's no way this guy gets changed back. Like he's gonna die." And it actually it reminded me of the ending of Tusk when his friends just decided to leave him alive. And I was like, "What are you doing? Kill him! You don't want to be a walrus. He's not even really a walrus. He didn't get turned into a walrus. He's a human with flesh bags on him. It's got stapled to his skin." Like the end where Johnny Depp raised his gun and like you thought he was gonna kill him. I was like, okay, kill him, put him as misery. No, they put him in a fucking zoo. He's all like,
It wasn't like a good zoo either. It was like a hole in the wall down in Florida. He was like a sideshow attraction.
he was like in a 12x8 cage with a wading pool. Like, what is this? Kill him. So the end of this movie really reminded me of that. And he crawled out of there. She was crying. She had the gun. I was like, yeah, she's gonna blast him.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, man. If this movie were made today, that Hollywood would do that stupid ass Hollywood thing where they would turn him back and it wouldn't be as tragic. They would take all that shit out of the movie. The stuff that gives this movie weight, they would just completely strip it down and take it all out. So
There's got to be a happy ending.
right, there's got to be a happy ending. It can't be fuck that bullshit.
Which
I hate that. I really do, dude. I can't stand that Hollywoodized shit. It fucking drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because this movie ends perfectly. I mean, I know we're not there yet, but I'm just throwing that out there. It's fucking.
Right.
Yeah, we'll definitely get on that. Save that for later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I definitely want to talk about the ending.
So let's talk about the body horror.
Oh yeah.
Like
I really like the way that they shot this, where he was just basically disintegrating over a period of time, but yet he was also getting stronger.
Thank you for saying that, Corey, because that is one thing I always take away from this movie is the build up and the lead up to his like final form, his just slow deterioration. I love that, man. The movie is structured so well in that aspect, man. They do such a fantastic job. And I love the fact that after he basically he gets a little bit tipsy, a little drunk, and he wants to go through with his experiment. And he gets in the telepod, but unbeknown to him, there's a fly that gets in the telepod with him. And
classic case.
So he transports to the other pod, and at first everything's wonderful. He feels re-energized and reinvigorated, and like he feels like he's on top of the world. He's at his peak. He even says with some dialogue, he's like, I think I've been reborn. I think I've I don't know. I just feel like I've become a different person, and he shows off like amazing physical abilities. He's able to, um, you know, pretty much become an acrobat. He's very light and weighty, and or not weighty, but he's flipping around and just doing crazy shit,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's like wow, like so it's almost like teleporting you from point A to point B actually changes your cell structure or something and makes you a like almost superhuman in a
Was
way.
it? Was that actually Jeff Goldblum doing that?
I,
He
you
was
know,
in,
I
s-
don't,
he
I
was in
don't.
some good shape.
Yeah, he was. He really
Yeah,
was. It was
yeah.
fantastic.
I think I think he was actually doing that. I don't think he had a stunt double.
They
It
asked
sure,
me, Jeff,
it
do
sure
you,
as hell looked like him.
Yeah.
the people they asked me, do you, did you really do all that? And I said, yes. I did a fucking handstand on a chair.
Yeah, it was impressive what he was able to do. That shit was insane. And even Gina Davis was like, she almost looked like shocked, like she didn't know ahead of time that he was going to be
Oh,
doing this stuff.
she
Yeah,
was,
I wonder if that was intentionally done that way.
Maybe because I know there's the scene where when he's deteriorating that Cronenberg kind of held a piece of information from her to get her genuine reaction, and he captured.
I was just about to say that. Like, how funny that have been. She's like, holy shit, Jeff Goldblum's an Olympic gymnast.
No, she really, and that goes to show like her just acting ability in this movie is fantastic. Like the fact that she wasn't nominated for like an award or an Academy Award is just criminal.
Hmm.
She's great, man. She handles the emotional strain and the emotional shit so well in this.
Hmm.
Like her emotional breakdowns and are just amazing. Like they
Yeah,
feel so genuine and real,
Yeah.
you know.
I really like the transition to where he starts to become the Fly. Like at first he's got like a sore on his back, and she's like, wasn't she like rubbing his back or something? And she
Mhm.
realizes that he's got hairs sticking out of his back.
He's got
Yeah.
back hair.
Which is cool because like when he's like before he even goes through the telepod, he has like they had just like gotten through having sex and whatnot, and he like has his like something's got stuck on his back. It's like a piece of machine or something, and it cuts
Look,
through his back. And that's when the hairs like it pops out from that. Like I thought that was pretty fascinating.
I didn't even put two and two together. Yeah,
It's cool.
that was a pretty cool little touch.
Yeah.
Well, the really cool touch to that is when she clips it. If you notice, that's when he first acted like a fly, because she clips the hair on his back and he like twitched, real fast, and it was
Yeah.
like he twitched like a fly would.
And he like immediately stood up real fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was a really neat touch.
It's a, yeah, she's like this hair is like really coarse and it's very like thick. And she's like trying to cut through it and it's not quite cutting right and stuff like that. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
really, really cool little scene. But
Mhm.
you can definitely tell, yeah, like you said, Corey, like his and I think Jeff Goldblum added a lot of like characteristics to his when he's actually transforming and becoming the Brundlefly. Like
Mhm.
Hmm.
a lot of those twitches and like those little ticks that he has, I thought they were like well like they were well done because the story it fits that like it fits, which is like I'm saying, when I don't see anybody else having as much success in this role as him because that's Goldblum. That's him. Doing stuff like that. It seems like his personality. So,
Yeah.
but it fits the character because he's becoming a fly. So I just thought that was brilliant. I mean, I really do. Like Goldblum's got to he's got to have a little bit of credit too. Like, his acting is on point. There's some scenes where he's delivering like exposition or something. He's delivering like these really really philosophical lines that are just brilliant.
Hmm. Yeah. I think one of my favorite lines from him in this movie is whenever he's putting his I think he just took his something out, his other ear or something, and he was putting it in his medicine cabinet, like collecting all his little body parts.
Oh,
Yeah.
He was like artifacts of a bygone era, and he's saying artifacts of a bygone era, but the way he says it sounds like he says bygone ear, like
Oh,
bygone ear.
yeah.
I thought that line was absolutely brilliant, so
Really is,
funny.
man.
And then like she walks in, he's like, "You want to see? You want to see my body parts in my medicine cabinet?"
In my medicine cabinet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is gruesome, man. The fingernail scene. Oof,
Oh yeah, that scene
rough.
is with me, especially when he presses on it and the pus comes out and it squirts all over.
Mm. Oh, so gross.
It just
Just just more milk and honey and eggs.
oh, that looked like just milk. Like that was gross white spew. Like it was nasty.
You know that stuff tasted weird.
Ugh, man.
You know, he spit it out. He was probably genuinely commenting on how disgusting it was.
Yeah. There's a scene in this movie that fucking cracks me up every time. When like he transformed or not transformed when he went through the pod at the beginning and he feels reinvigorated. Him
Mhm.
and uh, him and Gina Davis are at I guess like a coffee shop or whatever. And he's just pouring sugar into his
Mhm.
coffee,
Mhm.
packing it in there. But
Yeah.
but he's like losing his mind at the same time.
Uh-huh.
He's like smacking the table, like where the fuck are you? Like he's trying to get like I guess like he said he wanted what was it? A cannoli or something like that.
Yeah.
He's like, but he's so impatient and he's so fidgety and he's like calling the waiter and he's like getting pissed off and that whole scene cracks me up.
Mm.
Even
Him
even the even Gina Davis picks up on it because she even makes the comment. She's like, "Geez, you want some coffee with that sugar?"
with the sugar, yeah, because he's literally like the whole
It,
fucking like, it's
yeah,
nothing but
and he was like, "I'm sorry, what?" He didn't even realize he was doing it.
no, he didn't realize he was doing it. I thought that was brilliant.
That's a cool
It's
touch.
brilliant. Yeah, just like later on when you see all the like donuts and all the snack food and like all that shit just everywhere in his like little laboratory. Like that's he just has to have sugar and it's fucking crazy. Like he literally like stepping on donuts and the sweets and all that shit. It's all over the place.
You know what? One of the scenes I really like is the bar scene when he gets into the
Arm wrestling scene.
when he gets into the arm wrestling match. I,
Oh
I
my
love the fact
gosh.
I love the fact that he's like, hey, but what is it he says to the girl or whatever? He's like, if I win, I can take you home or something.
Yeah.
And then like he breaks the guy's arm, snatches her up, and just fucking leaves.
You just leave.
And she goes with him. She goes with
Yeah,
him.
she goes with him. And it's like you just saw him rip a guy's arm in half.
Are you a bodybuilder or something? He's like, yeah, I'm a bodybuilder. And then like takes her home and boinks her for God knows how long. And apparently, if you turn into a fly, it makes you a sex addict.
Well, yeah, it definitely builds up his stamina because even like he just even like they're him and Gina Davis are going at it and she's like I can't keep up with this like it's been hours like she's just fucking like she's done she's
When the woman taps out, and that's when,
yeah she's done
well,
yeah, he just gets up and just flipping around and stuff like that. It's insane. But I love the fact that he feels like in the beginning he feels like he's on top of the world and then slowly he just comes down and he comes down to, like hard.
mhm.
It's brilliant, man. How you're like on top of the mountain and it's like a slow progression, like you're just falling down the mountain. That's pretty much what his character.
Yep.
Some terrible like vulgar stuff happens to him. I mean, it just and to think like you having to go through that would be fucking traumatic and just awful. like just slowly having your body fall apart and just pieces coming off, and just pretty much your body has become a cocoon, and at the end the fly breaks out of the cocoon essentially, and just his old flesh dies and it falls right off, and he's reborn. But it's grotesque and it's awful looking. I mean, no, the not awful looking as far as the effects. The effects in this movie are fucking like fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely fantastic. Every bit of it. Like the
Yeah.
Brundlefly, like is a it's a legendary like horror creature. I mean, it's really really cool. And they take everything. Like even he has the feelers when it's in its final form. He even has the feelers. I noticed that too. And when it breaks off, and like his eyes like just melt out of it. It's insane, bro. It's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was cool. That was so
Oh,
cool. I hate like a lot of movies now don't focus on practical effects like they used to
no,
because it
if they
just
did if they
looks
did it
so
again,
good.
be all CGI, and it would just not have the same impact. Not have the same impact, like emotional impact that this did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I like his dialogue when he talks about like when he calls her a fucking drag because she won't go through the teleporter or the
Yeah.
telepod. Yeah, he's like, "You're a fucking drag." Like he just flips out, and but his dialogue about the plasma pool, that whole like line delivery was fucking brilliant. Like you got to give Goldblum some credit for even remembering all that and just sprouting it out like he did. It's absolutely
Mm.
amazing.
He's flipping out, punching the
Yeah,
wall.
losing shit, man. Like, and I mean, I don't know. It makes sense for his character because if you were going through this hellacious like process of turning into a fucking fly, you would just be losing your shit.
Well,
Hmm.
he kind of wanted Gina to kind of well, Gina's character. He kind of wanted her to like kind of experience the same thing he experienced. That
Mm.
way they could almost kind of be together in a sense.
Yeah, he's like, let's become
Did you
like,
guys get that?
yeah, because he even has
Yeah.
a line of dialogue where he says, "Let's become the super duo" or something.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's like a running theme with him because even well, when we get to the end, I'll talk a little bit more about that. We're not quite there yet, but I didn't want to jump the gun. But he says, when she notices something's wrong and he flips out and she leaves, eventually early on in the process, he gives her a call finally, and she's like been waiting on his call to see how he's been doing. But he told her to basically like leave me alone, don't come back, this and that. So she doesn't call him or anything like that. He calls her and he mentions that it's been like 4 weeks. So you get kind of a timeline of his, you know, his transformation, like from the beginning to then when he calls her, and then when she
Mm.
comes over, because he's like, "Hey, I need to see you," and she comes over, and you just feel so bad for his character because he's walking on crutches, he looks super weak, like he can't really do much, like he just everything's falling apart, and then he does the when he vomits on his food to digest it, and yeah, that scene, it's fucking just oh
Mm.
He
so
was he
fun.
was explaining he was explaining it as if he was like showing off for kids.
Yeah,
He was like
I
doing a
love it.
demonstration.
Yeah, he's doing a demonstration because it becomes to a point where he's like, okay, because he goes through like a emotional high and low where he looks at his condition in a different light. Like at first, he's kind of like, oh, like I have like this horrible disease and I'm going to slowly deteriorate and die. But then he realizes, oh, there could be some good in this. I can show like my process and like give like people kind of like a like be careful what be careful what you do, be aware of what you're doing and stuff like that to kind of like keep them from making the same mistake that he did.
Hmm.
And like he goes through that kind of swell of emotion of kind of like, hey, maybe I can take this unfortunate thing and turn it into a positive. So that adds more to his character, and I love the fact that he also doesn't want to. He refuses, like, because there's a scene where, she talks to him about going to see a specialist or something. He's like, no. He's like, I don't want to. I don't want to be tested on. I don't want to be a guinea pig or something.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So that's another thing that speaks to his character. There's a lot of character with him. Like, a lot of character comes out in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, like you said from the start, it's definitely a character study for sure. There's so many little things too, in the movie. Like, it's a character study, it's a creature feature. Like, it's a lot of things.
At face
Mhm.
value, it's just a creature feature, whatever. No, there's a lot going on in this movie.
Yeah.
That's what I think elevates it above the original, because there's so much more going on.
Yeah. And there's a love story being told there too.
And
That like,
there you go. That's another big theme in this movie, is the love story.
yeah, because like she genuinely fell for him and really liked him. He's a fucking fly. He just went crazy and
Which love, yeah, love is the main theme too, because he wouldn't be in this predicament if it wasn't for his love for her, because he thought that she was like abandoning him and leaving to go see her, which we haven't even brought his character up, Stathis, which is her editor, but
yeah.
it's also her, I guess, ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he kind of finds out that she goes, because he's kind of like blackmailing her, saying, "Hey, I want the story. You need to tell the story." But she's like, no, she wants to like do her own story and do a videography of the experiments and whatnot. And he's like, no, I want this story for me. But then I don't know, he kind of changes a little bit too. It seems like he more wants the story because he wants to control her and have her like in his life and be, pretty much be in control of her, be a controlling prick is what he really is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's that one line that he delivered I thought was so funny. Whenever she was they were kind of going back and forth. She's like, give me a break. I'm on to something big here. And I was thinking,
Oh, I know where you're going.
Jeff Goldblum's dick. And as sure as God's got sandals, that dude says, "What, his cock?"
Oh yeah.
I was like, yes, juvenile wiener jokes. Oh man.
Yeah, there's a line where he kind of, I guess he has a key to her apartment and he's just like in there taking a shower.
You took a shower.
She's like, "What the fuck are you doing in my shower? Like, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh," he's like, "I was just in the neighborhood and I felt scummy." I was like, "Well, because you are a scumbag." You are.
Exactly. We know your tricks.
Yeah, dude. So yeah, he kind of, well, the whole reason like he even went through, because she was supposed to record him, going through for the first time. That was supposed to be their big break. And she kind of left to tell Stathis, like, "Hey, you need to back off and this and that." But to Seth, like, he thought that she was going to see him. So jealousy took over and he was kind of, a little bit upset. And that's the whole reason why he went through and why the, you know, the whole situation happens, because he was jealous and he was angry and upset. So, like I said, that wouldn't have, it was the love, like the love kind of is the underlining theme in this movie too. So, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it brings into the story and the plot, his relationship with her and how quickly they kind of fell for each other. So it's really, like I said, man, this movie works on an emotional level and an intellectual level, and that's the main thing that I get from it. It works on both levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it even shows there towards the end too. Like you put earlier, it's very tragic, the
So
ending, but I mean it's a really well done ending, and that love shows right there towards the end. But yeah, like you said, Tony, they kind of fell in love early on, and I take this film as a straight up love story as well.
yeah, for sure, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think and another brilliant. Okay, we're just going through brilliant scene after brilliant scene, but he has a line when she comes to see him to tell him, hey, she she finds out that she's pregnant
Hmm.
and it's with his child, but she's afraid that the baby's going to be deformed because of the transformation that's happening with him.
Yeah.
So it's almost like she doesn't have the heart to tell him because she tries to, but she just can't. Like she can't get it out. And he's like, well, what'd you come over here for? And she's like, I had to tell you something. And he has a line where this is the line I wrote it down. This is one of my favorite lines of the whole movie. He says, when he's describing himself and what he's going through, he says, I'm an insect who dreamt he was a man and loved it. But now that dream is over and the insect is awake. I love that fucking line.
Wow. Yeah.
So powerful, man.
Yeah.
Because
I was about to say it's very powerful.
yeah, basically what he's telling her is like, listen, like what I'm becoming, you can't be around me because I'm afraid of what I'm going to do to you. Like, because he's like, you ever hear of insect politics? And she's like, no. And he's like, well, insects don't have politics. Like, I could,
Yeah.
I could turn into this fly and kill you, and you have to leave. He's like, you have to leave and never come back. And
Yeah.
it's so sad because you can see the heartbreak in her eyes, and she starts like breaking down. And the sad thing is, I noticed this time when I watched it. There's an earlier scene where he goes and they're going out, and he kind of buys her like this necklace. And while he's telling her that and telling her she can't be around him anymore, and she has to leave, she's crying and she's like holding on to the necklace. So that's like her holding on to her love for him. And
Oh wow.
it's powerful, man. There's a lot of stuff going on like that you don't see at first, but then when you pay attention to the little things, you'll notice them.
Yeah, I noticed that last time watching it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's kind of what attributed to him attacking the guy too. Whenever he melted his hand, and his foot, like he was in insect mode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he was just attacking.
Well, he
Which,
had this. Oh, go ahead.
well, I've never had a fly do that to me. I'm just like
He had.
a horse fly bit me on the neck one time. That sucked.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Imagine if we were on the same level with insects and stuff like that. Flies would be dicks,
Yeah. They're
They
already
already are.
ticks
man.
But
So
shitting
no,
all over my
but no.
barbecue.
To Daniel's point though, he I think that anger really showed in that scene where he essentially attacked Stathis.
mhm.
He attacked him with aggression because had it not been for Stathis, he wouldn't have gone through the pod.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have become this monstrosity of a man, and in the end, essentially losing the one love of his life.
The only thing he really had, because even he tells her, like, I don't have a life, so you're not going to interfere with anything. When he told her, hey, you can videotape this whole progress of this, experiment. He's like, I don't have a life. I don't have anything going on, so you're not going to interfere with anything. So you could tell just from that line alone, like he had nothing else going on, and that she was like a bright, shining light for him, like the beacon of hope and love that he had been seeking for so long. And all that was taken away from him. And he was just, like I said, like you guys pointed out, he just kind of reacted aggressively. And like, he was becoming, you know, the insect that, he was to become. And there was no reasoning or anything. Like, not all that was out the window at that point.
Mhm.
So, yeah. I mean,
Some
there's
might
just
say he got a staph infection.
status infection. Yes, brilliant. Touche.
Don't laugh at that. That was awful.
Um, yeah, what did you guys think of the overall being once he became the Fly?
Fucking magnificent.
Transformation. So good.
So good.
It really was.
Like when
Oh,
he breaks out of the cocoon and like you see his final form and all the skin is just melting, like not melting off, but just peeling off and just flopping on the ground. It's just, oh dude. You can see why the effects artists of the 80s were just like they were the stars. Like because those effects are brilliant, man. You just don't see anything like that.
mm-mm. No,
Like I
not these days.
Yeah, no, you don't. It reminded me a lot of The Thing, and that's high praise because I think The Thing is one of the best effects movies of all time. I mean, a lot of people agree with. A lot of people think it is. So, but I mean,
Yeah.
when you're compared to The Thing as far as the effects and stuff like that, like the effects are just on another level. Like no one reaches like a pinnacle like that. And The Fly did like these effects are just mind blowing, and they did it all like with puppets and everything. It's so amazing, because I could imagine honestly how tedious those shots would or those scenes would be to shoot because it would be like a long process because you have to get it just right.
Yeah, but
And
so the result is just so much more worth it, man. Like, I don't know, like hats off to guys who could do good CGI. Especially now, like CGI's come a long way. I mean, if you go back and watch like movies from the late '90s, early 2000s, like yeah, it's rough.
Mhm.
Even like the Matrix. Like I thought the first Matrix was fantastic. Had some good special effects. It was like considered like I guess the new age forefather of special effects in a way. But then like the second one came out and it had some pretty rough special effects. But I mean it was still new technology. So hats and we're not completely knocking CGI, I guess.
no, no, I'm not.
Um but
That's
like
the time and place for CGI, and with like
sure.
with big huge budget blockbuster movies, yeah, I understand, I know why
Yeah.
you do it, but with movies like with lower budget horror films and stuff like that, very few instances of CGI add more weight to the film, and with
Mhm.
this movie, the practical effects just added so much more weight.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And like it's just this is going to be a topic of conversation a lot. It seems like it has been and will continue, but practical effects is a big deal to fans, especially horror fans. And that's just like Gremlins 3 got announced, and one of the first things they said was they're not using CGI Gremlins. They're actually going to be using puppets. So I know that's exciting for a lot of fans because we remember the puppets. Um, they're creepy and terrifying, but they're also funny, and they just look more raw, more real. And we want more of that.
That was the charm of Gremlins, though, was the puppeteering. So
Exactly.
it's what
Yeah.
made it so endearing.
hmm And same thing with this. Like if you imagine if this movie was made today, going back to remakes, like it would just be CGI to death. I feel.
It would just
And
be so generic. It would be so generic and boring.
yeah,
Just so generic and boring.
could be wrong, but you know. Um, there's a jewel every now and then, like Corey
Oh,
said. There are genuine good remakes,
oh yeah. There's plenty.
but
And like what you said earlier, there's anytime anytime I hear that there's a remake, I instantly cringe. I think
Yeah,
a couple weeks ago, I posted where they were talking about remaking Misery, and
mm,
that made me cringe a little bit because it's like, how can you remake Misery? I mean, that's such a good movie, you know.
mhm.
And I think that's my thought process all the time. It's
Movies
like,
like
how can
that
you do
too.
that?
Yeah, exactly. Movies that too. Um, which, by the way, just quick tidbit before I get to my point. Mel Gibson apparently turned down a role as Seth to do Lethal Weapon. So
that
that's
kind
cool.
of worked out. Well.
It did. I'm glad he did. I'm glad he did. Um, but like movies like Misery, it always, whenever they want to bring back a classic, it's like, okay, one, who are you going to get to replace Kathy Bates? And
Right.
two, who, like that person, like how would they feel reprising that, or not reprising, but how would they feel doing that role?
Mhm.
Like I have to step into the shoes of Kathy Bates to remake a classic horror film,
Yeah.
knowing it's probably going to get shit on by critics,
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
critics and fans alike. You know,
Yeah, I-
I always wondered that. Like, every time a remake comes out, it's like, how could you? And I think that's why people say things like, "Oh, you'll ruin a classic." Say, no, that's not going to ruin a classic. It's just gonna mean this version's gonna be trash.
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, like when you have I'll give you a perfect example. The remake of The Fog is one of the worst remakes I've ever seen. It's fucking atrocious. It's a terrible movie.
It is.
Absolutely, absolutely terrible. But in comparison, it just makes the original Fog just a fucking brilliant film because you see the disconnect between the original Fog and this piece of shit, and you're like the original Fog is just, it's heads and tails way above this steaming pile of shit. It's incredible because honestly, dude, I'm telling you, that is the one remake that I couldn't even get through. I couldn't even finish watching it. I had
Oh,
to turn it off. It was awful. There were so many fucking terrible decisions made in that movie. I couldn't could not do it, man. I could not live with myself,
that's
finishing the
rough.
movie.
Mhm.
It was bad. It was terrible. And I'm not one to knock movies at all. Like I never really do. But that was a steaming turd.
I gotta agree with you. I
Oh, uh,
I like the fact that they didn't touch the original storyline. They kind of went off on their own, with
ugh.
that. But even still, I mean, you can't touch that one. That's a classic that
Yeah,
I think
that's
is a standalone. You can't remake that film.
right. But then you have a remake like another example, the Evil Dead remake. Fucking great remake. I love that movie. It's
Yeah.
badass. But they took the very very simple structure and tweaked it just enough to make it its own thing, and that's why, to me, in my personal opinion, it exceeded so much is because they did something different while still keeping the same structure. So, in that regard, I think it's a successful remake because honestly, it's a fucking great movie. I really enjoy it. I
Mhm.
remember seeing theaters and just being blown away, like I was seeing the shit in theaters. I
Hmm.
couldn't believe they were getting away with half the shit they were doing. It's insane. But yeah, that's just an example. I mean, there's two examples of it not working and it working really well, really well.
Yeah.
We got on the remake kick again.
Yeah, sounds like we need to have a separate episode for that.
No kidding.
So, um,
Would be a bad idea.
so yeah, I guess kind of um cranking the plane up to, to get ready to land it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Um, in closing, I guess, Corey, or like y'all have any last thoughts on the movie, the ending? You said you want to talk about the ending real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I want to definitely talk about the ending because, obviously, okay, so you see the love story finally unfold
Mhm.
in the film. And it takes a complete 360, I think, cuz so basically she despises Stathis, but in the end he kind of comes to her aid,
Yeah. He kind of
in
redeemed.
which yeah, he kind of redeems himself, which we saw in The Brood, you know.
Yes. Character arc, which is something it's very, very important. You have to have a character arc. And this
Mhm.
movie had it. It had it well. Did it very well.
Hmm.
And
I'm
then
sorry.
and then up until the final moment when, you know, Seth finally realizes that there's just obviously no hope at this point, I guess pretty much he doesn't want to live his life as this monster anymore because he's seen what he's done. He's seen that, you know, throughout this entire thing, she still loves him, and he ends up grabbing the shotgun and pulls it to his head.
Sure, he was in a lot of pain too.
Yeah, for sure. But you can just tell, and that's another thing. I brought it up pretty much on every episode we've done with Cronenberg. But Howard Shore's score, when it kicks in that scene, it just makes it so much more sad. It
Oh yeah.
so much more sad because he looks so it is so defeated, and you see so much emotion even in the creature effects. Like you see the emotion in the eyes, which is bizarre to me. It's so bizarre to me that they were able to do that.
Yeah.
He just looks so it's so tragic, man. And then when he grabs the gun and kind of points it to his head, and she's like breaking down and crying because she doesn't want to shoot him. It's so fucking sad, man. It's
Hmm.
oh man, it gets you. It really does.
Hmm.
And then she does shoot him, and his head
Just explode.
explodes.
Oh, man. And it just cuts to her crying and just breaking down.
That was a good exploding head.
It really is, man. Another good exploding head.
Hmm.
Cronenberg's 2 for 2, man. He knocked it out the park again.
Yeah, he really did.
Yep.
But that's the brilliant way that this movie it ends just on that. Like it's fucking brilliant. You don't make a fucking happy studio like a Hollywood studio ending. You fucking make it a dour.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting an abrupt ending like that. I thought it was going to be something like, you know, where it ends with her holding a baby, 9 months later, or she something, you know. No, she kills him and she falls down crying and ends.
But to me it's perfect because
Yeah,
you've told your love story and you've seen it through to the end, and that's tragic, and it ends tragically, and that's the like the antithesis of the movie. It's a
yeah.
tragic character study, so it has to end that way.
Hmm.
So I think it was brilliant, man. Like I said, another just wonderful way for a movie to end and it to cut to black. It's just wow, and it sticks with you, and you think about it for a while afterwards. Like holy
Yeah.
shit! Like it's almost like you got to take a breather after watching it.
It's definitely a very powerful ending.
Hmm.
Um, and a really well done and well thought out, planned ending. Because like you said, it could have went so many different ways, and this way really works
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah, because it's kind of crazy because he thinks that the way to reverse his condition is to pretty much have because he has one telepod that's kind of like his prototype that he doesn't use because he said in the beginning it's clunky, so he doesn't
Hmm.
use it. So he uses the two that he built afterwards, and so he wants to take her character, put her in the first telepod, and put him in another telepod so he can fuse him, her, and the baby together so they can become what he says the perfect family, so they can all be together. In a way, he wants to do this too because he wants to reverse his condition. Because he does a lot of research on the computer and looking up like pretty much problem solving, and he's like, okay, well the only way to do that is with an organic structure or sequence to where he has to have a person gel with him just like he did with the fly, and that's the only way to reverse his condition.
Hmm.
So he gets it in his head like the best way to do that is to have her character with the baby and him. And I don't know how that would have ended well. I really don't. But in his mind, I think he at that point he's kind of like lost it. He thought that this would be the best scenario. So that's what led up to this whole tragic ending was his mindset being I need to pretty much combine me, her, and the baby together so we can be one unit or one family, which is like wow, that's pretty bizarre. Really bizarre to think about. Like I
Hmm.
thought maybe he put Stathis in there and kind of tell him, cross, sequence with him and just like I don't know. Like I don't know. Like I have no idea. I don't know if he thought that through like 100%, or he was just at that point he was just done, like gone. But it's pretty. It builds up to a a crescendo with the ending. So I can't. I don't second guess it. I think it's like I said. I think it works. I just don't know if at that point he had just lost it or he really thought this was going to work.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess one can always wonder. It's another good thing about this movie. It makes you think.
Mm.
As you
Definitely does.
question, like what would happen if this happened, or what would happen if that happened. It opens the door for a lot of like questions. That's what a movie with a lot of metaphors and stuff should do.
Yeah.
It makes you cry. It makes you laugh. But most of all,
It does too. There's some funny
I
little.
got turned into a fly.
It just works on all levels. This movie works on
Yeah,
all.
it definitely does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, great movie.
Mhm.
I give
Wonderful.
it I give it 9.5 Jeff Goldblum suits out of 10. It's all the same suit.
Yeah, it's all the same suit. I give it 10 Jeff Goldblum coiffed hairstyles out of 10.
Oh, damn, that was a dirty looking dude, wasn't it?
Oh, I'm telling you.
Like it started out so majestic and beautiful, and it just got so like greasy and nasty. It's such a shame.
Yeah. Even at one point he was wearing a shirt that looked like it had stuff on it.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not gonna say what it looked like it had on it, but you can pretty much imagine
yeah. That was
for your
to me is
underage listeners.
probably one of the
It,
gross. You ain't no underage listeners. Get out of here. That's probably one of the grossest scenes. Like, it always gets me in movies whenever somebody's covered in blood or jizz or whatever, and another character runs up and gives him a big hug. It's like, no, what are you doing? Stop it!
Don't do it.
You got blood on you, bro. But like he's covered in just nasty egg milk fly vomit, and she just runs up and gives him a hug. I was like, ugh, that's nasty.
Yeah.
it's pretty gross.
So
Moments that make you cringe. There's moments that make you just sad. It's just so many. It's just
yeah,
telling you, man.
it's an emotional ride.
Emotional roller coaster.
It's
Yeah,
a roller coaster.
good movie.
Yeah.
But Corey, would you care to give it a quick rating if you had to rate it?
Uh, yeah, I would give it a 10 10 eccentric Jeff Goldblums.
10. That's a high number.
I know. I can't do it, Goldblum. You do it well, bro. I can't do it.
You know, the interesting thing about 10 is it's higher than 9.
It's almost like a walk-in, but it's not quite. It's like if you can master the Goldblum and walk-in impressions, you're gold. You're good.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Usually I fast forward through commercials, but when I see the Jeff Goldblum hotel commercials come on,
Oh, you
yeah,
got to.
I watch those.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
They're so good.
that's it. He's such a character. I love watching him with Conan. Like with him and Conan, like Conan's
Oh yeah.
interviewing. That's comedy gold right there.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite Jeff Goldblum lines is Jurassic Park though. That is one big piece of shit.
Yeah.
Oh, classic.
I don't know.
Ladies,
I don't know if that's a meme or not, but if it's not, it should be.
it should be. It's got to be.
I
So
think
It
it's
has
got
to
to
be.
let's go ahead and land this plane, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. We greatly appreciate you listening. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends. leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. We greatly appreciate that. Follow us on TikTok at Midnight Monster 20. Follow us on Twitter at Monster_Corner. And we will see you guys next week. Is anything else to add, fellas?
No, you said it pretty well. Just folks, join us on our Facebook group as well. It's a growing
Yes.
community, and we would love to have you and your input. We're getting a lot of feedback from people on there, and a lot of great comments and stuff. And just keep it growing. Let's keep this thing going.
We need your dank memes.
Yeah, we do. I did mention it on the last show too, but I am going to have some digital codes to post in the Facebook group. So any listeners out there want some digital codes for some movies, be on the lookout. I'm posting those very shortly.
Fantastic.
And
All right.
always got to say thank you guys for your support and love, man. And thanks for the ratings too. That's awesome. That's being rated. It's really cool.
Definitely is.
All right. Well, with that being said, we are out of here.
Later, guys.
Later.
Later.